Meeting the order. Commissioner Howard.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to, you've given us to come out and serve those that have asked us to serve them. Lord, we pray, Father, for those that are on the streets with our law enforcement, EMS, and fire service, and putting their lives on the line for the communities that they live in our county. We ask, Lord, that you would give us your wisdom and your wisdom alone. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a regular meeting of the Hendry County Board of County Commissioners being held Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 at the City Commission Chambers in Clewiston, Florida. In attendance are Chairperson Emma Byrd, Vice Chair Mitchell Wills, Commissioner Emery Howard, Commissioner Raymond Iglesias, Commissioner Carson Turner, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Matt Rollerson, and Deputy Clerk Sharon Congleton.
Thank you. Welcome to Henry County Board of County Commissioner. If you have any electronics, would you please mute them for me? Anyone need to speak, please? Oh, it's too loud. If anyone would like to speak, please, there's cards on the table. If you give it to the clerk for me, please. Thank you so much. There's nothing under bids today.
Madam Chair, I make a motion. Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve consent as presented.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Iglesias. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion stands. At this time, we're going up on the award. Do we have a presentation from Henry County Proclaimed Lifestyle for the month? No one here for the National Donation Life
Madam Chair,
Month.
I'll make a motion to approve the Hendry County Proclamation for LifeLink for 2023.
Second.
Okay.
Is
Would
there
you
a
like to
motion?
come
Is there
up,
a motion?
please? Thank you so much. If you'll state your name right there on the other side.
At the podium, ma'am, right back here.
If you would state your name for us, please.
My name is Janet Weinstein, and I'm an organ recipient, a kidney. My life was saved 12 years ago. And this month is Donate Life Month, where we encourage people to sign up as organ donors. Either your license or Donate Life Florida online. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. We want to take a picture with you all. If she would come right to
If
the,
you would just come up
Is
here,
it up
right here.
there?
thank you, if you'll stand right there. What's your name again?
Janet
Jan, okay. You turn around for us and face that way. Thank you, Ms. Janet, congratulations for life. They'll give it to you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. At this time, we have a Children's Advocate Center of South Florida. Would they like to make a presentation at this time?
Madam Chair, I also make a motion to approve the proclamation associated with Child Abuse Prevention Month.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Wills. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion stands. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Karen Turcott. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Children's Advocacy Center, and April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And we appreciate the recognition of that and helping to save our children from abuse and neglect and from sexual abuse and from medical neglect. And we know that 1 in 5 children will be abused by the time they're 18 years old, and 5 children die every day in the United States due to child abuse, and 1 person makes a difference. So we have pinwheels here today which represent childhood and having an opportunity to live freely. And so we encourage you to plant your pinwheel, in your yard, at your place of business, and help spread awareness to prevent child abuse.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Would you all? We'd also like to take a photo with you if it's okay. Thank you so much.
I couldn't pass that.
He's so bad.
I couldn't reach that far with Ms. Bird.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you do.
We thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do. Next thing up, screen lines. Is there anything up under there?
Yes, Mr. Lou Elliott is here this evening and for Stringline, and he's got a presentation he's going to provide as an update to the broadband venture that we have been working with them on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time, and commissioners, I just want to thank you for your support in this process, and we're very excited to be we're very excited to be showing you what we have coming here for the county very, very shortly. So over the past, year and a half since we first made our proposal to you all back in November of 2022, I believe that was, we've been working diligently to design a new network to cover the vast majority of the county, and we've worked hand in hand with county staff at pretty much every level and department to ensure a smooth and efficient build strategy and rollout to the community. What I have here to show you today, rather than like a PowerPoint presentation, was to actually give you something a little bit more tangible. The coverage map that will be our service and kind of show you visually and graphically all of the areas of Hendry County that we'll be able to cover with our service and be able to make high-speed internet a reality for the vast majority of the county. So what you'll see here is a bunch of different sites and colors, and if you just give me one moment, please, I can get all of these enabled for us. And what I like about this tool rather than other tools that I've used in the past when having presentations with the county is it's dynamic. So I can show you how coverage changes both on a signal level, but also changing the height of the installation for the customers. Because in some of our areas like downtown LaBelle, where we have an airport, or Port LaBelle, where it's a more suburban community, aesthetics are going to be an important factor, meaning we can't have a 30-foot tall pole in somebody's yard. They're not going to like that. Their neighbors aren't going to like that. And when you're near an airport, you also can't be, too high, as Tommy has shown us with the vector approach maps. We need to be cognizant of, the existing use of the land. So this map is one that, we can move around, we can change things, but what's important to show here is that at a very standard kind of installation height that would be no taller than your roof, we actually provide coverage at what we call max modulation or max speed of the equipment to a very substantial portion of the areas surrounding the tower sites that we will be deploying. Specifically, if you look at the Port LaBelle area, you see that almost all of Port LaBelle is red hot, and this is at a 20-foot height. What this means is that the citizens of Port LaBelle throughout almost the entirety of Port LaBelle will have a very aesthetically pleasing installation and also be receiving speeds that are fiber competitive and will enable them to work from home, learn from home, and even if they wanted to start a home business, to have that business out of their home as well.
Lou, so
Yes.
Port LaBelle is an important area for me. It's my district. And with all the providers, to be honest with you, the service is just horrible. My question is the tower, when you're talking about a 20-foot tower, you're talking about per resident, or you're going to have one massive tower that's going to have a broad, I don't know what radius you're going to be looking at, but when you talked about the 20-foot tower at somebody or 20-foot pole at somebody's house,
Yes.
I envision a 20-foot pole at every house, and I know that's not going to happen, right?
Yes. So, sorry, let me clarify. I appreciate the opportunity, Commissioner Iglesias. What I mean is that the Port LaBelle Tower is actually going to be a 300-foot tower, and that will provide us a very significant range of coverage. I currently have only ran the analysis at a 6-mile radius, but technically, our signal will propagate upwards of 10 miles, if not 14, at a very strong kind of max modulation, so to speak. So no, we are not anticipating a 20-foot pole at everybody's home. What we actually have found is that most roofs in the state of Florida average about 23, 24 feet. So there are different installation options that we have available to us where we can use like a non-penetrating mount on a roof, where you use some form of a heavy ballast, typically like cinder blocks, and that secures a mount to the roof, but doesn't put holes in the roof. Because as you know, we are aware in Florida, our roofs are our most valuable assets on our homes, and with the torrential downpours that we experience in the summers, the last thing we want are holes in our roofs that could potentially cause damage in the future.
So that's one application, because I'll be honest with you, just putting some weights on a roof to hold down a repeater or whatever you're going to call it, I don't know. Does it seem, besides aesthetically pleasing during a hurricane, it being an issue? So what are the other two applications you're talking about?
So there are other mounting options that we have at the home, and importantly to see here is that at Port LaBelle, coverage even at 13 feet at a house is still red hot throughout the majority of Port LaBelle. And at 13 feet, we are talking about what is typically a J-arm on the side of a home. So most of our homes have hip joint roofs, meaning there isn't an eave. An eave is typically at the edge of your roof. There's like a flat 90-degree piece of wood that you could mount to. Due to our hurricanes and our wind zones, we do not have that. But what we do have in our installer toolbox is what are called under-eave mounts. These are brackets that we install against the side of your home, and they curve out from underneath your roof, and then we install the antenna just kind of at the lip of your roof effectively.
Would this work significantly if it was a metal roof?
Yes. And actually, metal roofs help us out because they act as an even bigger antenna to concentrate the signal. Commissioner Howard?
Yes, sir. Can you explain to us a little bit about what looks like to me to the west there's a lot of signal degradation, and
Yes.
and I don't know if you measure that in megabits per second. What does that relate to in that loss of signal there?
Yes, so what you see here, these like small little pockets, those are lacking of signal at this level. If we were to show you just a slightly different amount, you would see that those pockets fill in. This gets us away from 100% of maximum capacity. It's more in the range of about 80 to 85%. And as you get closer to the tower, even though the signal is lower, due to the advanced nature of the technology that we are deploying, it actually can still achieve darn near max modulation. That's part of the reason why we spent so much time working with staff to get towers installed in the center of population. That way we could have the tower as equidistant as possible from all of the edges of population, rather than installing maybe at the back corner of a population center, because then you're going to have a very far distance, maybe from like the top right corner, if you would install the tower in the bottom left corner of an area. To answer your question in terms of megabits per second, we are conservatively stating right now 300 megabits per second down by 60 megabits per second up. And that is more so a conservative hedge against seeing how many of these marginal signals get installed against the system. Each of the antenna, when installed at a maximum signal, are able to receive roughly either 600 megabits per second down by 150 megabits per second up, or twice that at 1.2 gigabits per second down and 300 megabits per second up. That just depends on the type of system that we install. As you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, I have different options There's one where we call it 6 gigahertz underscore X2. That is the newest type of system developed by this company that we are deploying, Tirana. And that is the system that will allow us to achieve that 1.2 gigabit per second down by 300 megabit per second up. Interestingly enough, what we as providers know in the space is that the notion that everyone needs gigabit speed is a marketing tool. It is not actually the need of the end user. So most of the county properties in LaBelle and Clewiston today have 100 by 100 megabit connections. I have family members with offices in the city of Chicago that only have 100 by 100 connections, and they have 50 employees working in those locations. So the notion that we need gigabit to have a high-speed, high-quality connection is not a necessarily accurate statement. It is more so a marketing statement that's been designed to push other systems.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I love the idea you have the city lit up. My question is, they already have, most of these areas already have internet. Your outer areas, your Ladicas, your Peldas, your Wheeler Estates have nothing. What are you doing for those areas?
So I appreciate the opportunity, Commissioner Wills, and let me show you what we have for Felda, and then we'll get into Ladica and Pioneer as well. At Felda,
Quick question. So on Felda right there, where you're showing us this tower, is that an existing structure you're attaching to?
new structure.
So this is a hard cost that has to be borne by?
That is covered by the grants.
Okay.
This entire program is grant funded by the state of Florida. Commerce, I apologize, I do not have the statement memorized, but it's something along the lines of this program is funded by the federal government under the state and local fiscal recovery fund. I have to say that as a part of whenever we make a marketing statement or a statement about the program. So I will be better about that next time. But all of these costs are already covered and accounted for as a part of the proposals that we had submitted to the state back in 2022. And as a part of that, we are able to offer extremely subsidized internet rates to the community. Not only will we be doing free installations, but relative to the private network that we have deployed this same technology with in Golden Gate Estates, the prices are practically half of what we charge in a normal setting. So with your permission, I'll continue with Felda.
Please.
So at Felda, what you can see is we spent significant time trying to figure out the best location, the most optimal location here. Once again, this is at a very aesthetically pleasing 13-foot installation of the equipment at the customer's home. And you can see that Felda 2 is red hot. Not only is Felda red hot, but the surrounding farms and businesses around Felda are red hot. The only areas where we start to falter in connection, quite frankly, are the state forest, or the Oka. I'm not even embarrass myself. Yeah, but the wildlife preserve where there are no need for service. But
Get lost.
yeah. Now the nice thing is that in more remote settings where you don't need aesthetically pleasing installations, something like a utility pole, which can be installed at 30 or 40 feet, what you can see is that in a 5-mile radius, most of these towers have ubiquitous coverage, meaning pretty much you name a spot within 5 miles of these towers, and we can install. And that's with just a standard utility pole. There are even other options that we have where if a utility pole were not viable, we can do something that's called a telescoping pole. These are metal poles that literally like a telescope, or how you would extend it. It's the same concept. And then what we do to make them wind resistant, they are not hurricane proof, but they are wind resistant, is we'll guide them into the ground. And what we've done in the past, like when Ian rolled through, we actually proactively went to all of the homes that had an installation like this and collapsed down the pole. And when it was collapsed down, the customers still had service. It wasn't, you know, a perfect signal, but it worked just fine. They were able to stream their news. They were able to talk to their loved ones. And when the hurricane passed, we brought the antennas right back up.
We go northwest with this?
Yes, of course. Where would you like to see?
I want to see 14 acres, Wheeler Estates, North LaBelle.
So we are working on a solution for what I believe would be 14 acres. I think it's right where my cursor is here.
That's pretty close, yeah.
What you'll see is that at 40 feet, we have pretty good coverage. We don't have perfect coverage, and that is due to these two towers. The one that we are proposing at the jail, we're waiting on FAA approval for a 200-foot tower. Currently, they've approved us at 155 feet. That's instant approval. They said, you know, if you conduct what's called a Site 1A survey and submit it to us, we'll consider 205 feet. And that's already been, Tommy had provided me the vector approach maps, so this will not impact your study that was conducted, I believe, only like a year or two ago. This will not impact airport operations if they approve it. That's part of their work as a part of the study. But because that tower is only 200 feet and the Emergency Operations Center monopole facility is also only 200 feet, we don't get the coverage that I would like to see in the 14 acres area. So we have two options here. One is we are trying to evaluate a tower site in this region where we could do like a 150-footer or 200-foot tower, and that would make the entire area red hot at an aesthetically pleasing installation height of 13 feet. And you know what you see is at that more aesthetically pleasing height right now, it's not red hot. We do get coverage, but it's not ubiquitous. The other option is if we can't find an area to put that 200-foot tower, we can do actually two options. One is we can do an 80-footer, and we call that kind of like a micro point of presence. It just means that it's a shorter tower. It doesn't get 5 miles of coverage. It might only get 2 miles of coverage. But if you install it in the right location, we can get the coverage where it's needed. Option 3, which is the last trick in our toolbox, is what we call a hybrid deployment. That's where we install an antenna and then we run fiber from the antenna to the homes. And in doing so, we can cherry pick the best location for max modulation, that max speed that the antenna is capable of. And then it doesn't matter how that signal is to the homes because we're just running a cable to the homes. And if we were to do that, the only way I do that is underground. We live in a hurricane-prone state. To do anything other than that, quite frankly, I believe is irresponsible.
I just want to make sure these outlying areas are going to have some sort of coverage. When, you know, when COVID come through, a lot of these kids couldn't do their schoolwork. They had no connection. Yep. And again, you know, downtown, that's great. Downtown's great, but the outlying areas, my perception would be we need to focus on the ones that need it the most, not the ones that are just getting it because they're there. So I didn't see any antennas north of the river. So that means pretty much North LaBelle is kind of in a dead zone.
I'm sorry, we are working with them on some locations.
Perfect. I want to see that. I want to see something that's going to take care of North. That's not my district. I don't care about that. I've got people that live over there, friends. They need connectivity. So what about your Wheeler Estates? Where can you show me that?
Yes, of course.
That's to the west. You're going the wrong direction. Brother.
Oh, sorry about that. I was thinking of Ladika. Wheeler Estates.
We'll go back there in a minute.
We will. Wheeler Estates, I believe, is this region right here.
They're south.
Oh, Wheeler, yes. That's the one that borders Lee County, yes, Lehigh Acres. So Wheeler Estates is a similar scenario of the elegant installation height. We don't have ubiquitous coverage, but at a more, 27-foot high installation, we do. Wheeler Estates is also one that, we can be doing this hybrid solution. It might be a little bit more cost effective than building a tower at Wheeler Estates. One of the challenges that we have out there is the towers that we've proposed to build are located on county-owned lands. And to my understanding, there are not county-owned lands in the Wheeler Estates area. And so that's why I would believe that the hybrid solution would be a more cost-effective solution for regular estates, and most certainly something that we can be doing.
How much property are you talking about? 'Cause we do have county-owned properties out there, so how big a piece of property are you talking about?
We don't need much space. The compounds that we would like to have, if we are building it carrier grade, so a cell phone provider could also take advantage, is a 50 by 50 fenced-in compound with 100
Do that easy.
100 by 100 foot leased area in case they require, excessive space for like a generator and a.
That's still, I'm thinking you're somewhere, you're less than an acre. So
Oh, no.
We can make that happen. So,
Yeah.
Same, Mr. Parker will get with you. He's making notes now, so.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because if we could receive property kind of like halfway, not receive, we don't want to own it. We want to lease the space on it. But if we could have a space that we could lease that's kind of located in between the two groupings of the Wheeler Estates, because there's kind of like a north section and a south section, that would be perfect, because then we could have antennas pointed to the north and to the south, and we could what we call load balance, which is kind of share the brunt of the traffic across two different pieces of equipment rather than just one. Okay, so that covers Wheeler Estates. Are there any other questions about here?
No, Brad?
I'd like to add one to that. When you have a section that is where there's obvious holes, are you prepared with fiber to cover those holes and signal?
So the holes that you're seeing right now are from our aesthetically pleasing installations.
Yeah.
So we have the ability, and we do these installations in Golden Gate Estates today, the unincorporated section of Golden Gate Estates, where we use these telescoping poles in a very kind of suburban-like environment on non-subsidized plans, and people are taking them. So what you see with coverage when we introduce this kind of higher installation height, that 30-foot height where we can do these types of extending poles, you see that coverage starts to become much more ubiquitous and far-reaching. So there are some gaps in Wheeler Estates as an example, but that's where we could do either a hybrid fiber solution, or even something simpler than that, where we're doing like a 40-foot tall utility pole, and then we create a wireless relay off of that to connect those homes. Either of those solutions are effective, and we just need to balance the cost to delivery of service, because the grants that we have are fixed fee. We're not allowed to exceed the spend threshold, and there are also any of the homes that are outside of our grant addresses will be coming from private spend dollars that we are committed to spending to bring service. But especially when we're factoring in private spend dollars against a subsidized offering, we need to find a balance to what it is that we are building.
There's some folks just bought the old Methodist camp, and they are needing internet speed out there, which is on 78.
Mhm.
And I would almost bet you a quarter they'd be glad to put a tower in there somewhere. That would help the Scott Windy Road area out on 78, where there's a lot of folks as well. So that's a conversation that we need to have about that.
Do you mind if I grab a pen and paper to take notes?
Here you go.
Thank you so much.
I know we got funding on the first couple of rounds, but did we get anything on BEAD money, or was the BEAD money attached to those first couple of rounds?
So great question. The BEAD money has not even opened up yet. We are still waiting for the NTIA to approve Florida's Volume 1 and Volume 2 of their BEAD proposal. Once that gets approved, then we need the NTIA to approve our challenge process. Once that's approved, then what happens is the state says, these are all of the locations we are considering funding for. It opens up the door for citizens, local governments, and other providers to say either there is coverage at these locations or there is not coverage at these locations. That will take about, I believe, 60 days. Once that's complete, they'll have the final number of homes, and then BEAD will open. They had initially targeted for that challenge period to occur in February of this year, but it's a little bit behind schedule. Based on how we are tracking behind the discussed deadlines, and this is pure speculation, I would assume that the BEAD application cycle does not open until Q1 or Q2 of next year, and that we probably won't see awards made until the end of next year, which means that, you know, the award dollars probably won't even be released until maybe 2026. So BEAD is still a long ways away, but thankfully the BOP funding round dollars have been released, and you know that's why we're here presenting the progress that you know we have, and why we've been able to work with staff for so long to get to the point where we're close to submitting permits for builds and getting forecasts ready for, you know, go live on the network.
So if I recall correctly on the challenge process, basically what would happen is Comcast or AT&T would say that in a certain area there was coverage, but then another internet service provider could say, absolutely not, there's not, and then you have to justify that to them. Is that correct?
That is correct, and what we have found to be more effective in fighting the over-reporting of locations is for a private entity to partner with the public, whether that be citizens or local governments, and have the local governments or citizens supply those challenges. They get taken a little bit more seriously. Maybe not seriously is the right word, but you know, if a provider is challenging, there's a bias, right? The argument could be made, well, you're just trying to free up territory for your operations. When a, you know, city or a county makes the argument, it's because they're doing it for the betterment of their community, and so there's less of a pushback against a statement like that. When we as providers are issuing challenges, we typically have to conduct a little bit more rigorous analysis and secret shop, so to speak, where we pretend to be, you know, people looking for service, and we have to actually be denied and show those denials, and we have to do that on an address by address basis. So if hypothetically there are 20,000 addresses in the county that, you know, have or do not have service, if you want to prove or disprove that as a provider, you would have to actually do that at an every location level. Whereas if a local government were to, let's say, survey their citizens and also use firsthand reporting of, you know, we've even requested service at this area or in this area, then it doesn't need to be as granular of an effort.
Can quality of service be a factor in that challenge?
Amazing question. It's a double-edged sword, yes and no. Quality of service in the sense that during peak hours, can you get the 100 by 20 speeds that are required by the NTIA to be considered broadband for BEAD? Yes. Quality of service in the sense that even though you're getting 100 by 20 speeds, maybe your latency is high. So like you click go on, or you hit enter to go to Facebook, and it takes a long time to load. Even if the speed test shows that you're getting the speeds, that's a result of what we call latency. And to my understanding, there is not a latency requirement yet, which is a real shame because there are services that can provide, you know, good speeds, but they deliver them at extremely high latencies. And that is an issue to quality of service. For instance, you can't have a Zoom call if your latency is too high. You can't work from home. Your kids can't go to school. This is an issue that was created through lobbying, unfortunately, and we are stuck trying to navigate those waters. But thankfully, you have private partners, both through my company and through Connexon, that I believe would be more than willing. I can't speak for them, I can speak for myself. We'd be more than willing to continue working hand in hand with you to help you through that process, because Connexon did actually also win additional funding in CPF, the Capital Planning Fund, I believe it was, Capital Projects Fund. And that was for Commissioner Turner's region down in the extreme southern portion of the county. Man, that's not, yeah, it is 832. It's actually south of 832 where they received their funding, I believe.
Further east.
And yes, like north of the,
Reservation.
yes, exactly. But they did, I believe, receive funding for at least portions of 832. I could be wrong, though. I know that we had submitted a funding request for actually portions north of the Caloosahatchee, and for portions of southwestern Hendry County, kind of where you have the old prison, and also portions kind of in the northeast outlying areas of Clewiston. And for reasons unknown to us, we were denied that request.
And so what is the timeline, chronologically speaking?
Mhm.
Let's just say we were able to give you infrastructure or identify infrastructure. If you go down towards Deer Fence, go to the 846,
Yes.
go down there and then go a little bit further east. Okay, and let's just say you pick a spot out there where we had a piece of infrastructure that allowed you to be a few hundred feet up in the air.
Mhm.
How do we go about getting that on a map, getting you the information, and then saying, let's go back for another round of funding? How does that play?
Very simply, we have what are called local technology planning team meetings that when we were in the heavy planning phase, we were doing once a month. We've kind of slowed the cadence of that just because it's been a lot of paperwork lately and there haven't been a lot of updates needed. And we've been able to, through our partnership with staff, thanks to Bob Pastula and Shane and Ryan and Tommy, a lot of Don, all of the people here have been great at, kind of just pushing requests through and getting us in front of the right people to get questions answered. So that's why we've slowed down the cadence, but it's one that we could pick back up again, and we could evaluate even more locations.
Do you have the ability right now to show me or to show this board or our community what is coming off of the Seminole Tribe Reservation from a standpoint of how their scope touches us? Public meeting, yes, that's all we say.
Yes. Yes. So Bob was just making me aware to remember about some tower vertical assets that we have either planned or had hoped to build in Clewiston or existing around the Clewiston area. But to answer your question specifically about the deer fence area and near the tribe, I can try to find their funding award map. Maybe it'll only take me 10, 15 minutes. But to my understanding, it was an end-to-end fiber build, which means the reach is very small. It is only where they ran the fiber infrastructure itself.
Where they have hard copper in the ground, that's where they're gonna be, or fiber.
Or fiber,
Yeah.
yes. So you're not going to get like a spread effect like you do from our service because we're wireless. So it's, we throw it out into the ether, right? With a wireline service, imagine a tin can with a string in between. That's all wireline is. So there might be the ability to work with them to what we call splice a fiber connection off of their fiber network to feed a tower out in the Deer Fence Canal region, but to bring like fiber to the home from the tribe's fiber over to the Deer Fence Canal region would be a very costly endeavor.
All right, final question as it relates to that subject is, Ms. Davis, is he charted with looking at our whole network and how we're trying to essentially create efficiencies and then looking at any partners that are available? I ask that because, so we have a strong partnership with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. But I just don't know if we're 100% understanding exactly what they have at their disposal. And I know we have a person in the room that's listening intently to what's going on. She can make any call happen and put the right people in a room tomorrow if need be. And I'm just wondering if that's something that would serve us, because as it relates to no man's land out there, when you get onto 835 off of Garcia Farms or on 835 or hit Snake Road, I mean, there are giant areas out there where there is no Snake Road is considerably further south, and you're starting to leave Hendry County, get into the Broward County, process there. But then when you shoot way up, you still have large gaps. And so I'm just wondering if, if there's circles that can overlap, if there's a way for us to look at assets that are in the area, and then also look at assets. I'm thinking from South Florida Water Management District adjacent to Deerfence Canal and C-139 Basin, all that. I mean, when you start looking at that commission regulations, I think you're getting 4 or 5 floors off the ground, but they have telemetry stations that are shooting a signal back to Gun Club Road. If we could look into that and make sure that we're not interfering with anything that they're doing. I mean, they can tell us in real time what CFS is going through what gate, and they also have, a CCTV system that's uploaded as well. And so I just think that there's going to be an area for us to have what you need from an infrastructure standpoint, what the Seminole Tribe is providing from infrastructure and already, hard costs that are in there. And if we are creating redundancy that's going to play to both people's advantages, I don't know, it just seems like a low-hanging fruit that needs to be harvested.
To answer your question, so they were focusing on outlying areas that didn't have coverage with the funding that was provided. Of course, there'll be more additional grants that we can apply for. But to answer what you were saying for other agencies, I'll just leave it at that for now for North LaBelle, but also to answer Commissioner Wills's concern with North LaBelle. So we offered up, for example, we have that 10 acres that we got, remember, that's actually a little closer to Fort Denote Acres than even the Methodist camp, but that, when they ran it wasn't quite close enough. So the county engineer suggested for us to look at some other properties that we don't own, but partners, if you will, and I'll just leave it at that because we're still talking to them, that might work, and I think it will work, for North LaBelle. And so that's really the same thing you're saying.
Absolutely.
In that area, to try to work with some of these other folks for some locations.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I swear on the 4,000 acres that they own adjacent, across 835, that they have a massive tower there. I know they have some stuff on the res proper. And then just shooting a little bit north, I mean, there are some assets that I think are we need to be vetted. So
I'm more than happy to meet with anyone. You can ask any of the partners we've worked with. I'm very happy to take meetings. I owe you a meeting. I have not forgotten about that. It has bothered me.
Too, so there's egg on both of our faces.
So I am more than happy as well to get something on the books. Because we were supposed to look into your constituents, and you have the largest land mass.
The land mass with arguably, I'll go toe to toe with anybody. Our coverage sucks, so I think it's the worst. But we can battle it out, buddy.
Bring it.
But the short answer I would say is, even if it's not planned for today, I always have an eye towards tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And we can make things happen. Part of the reason why Magellan had recommended to you all in their broadband feasibility study to partner with a small business rather than a large tier 1 provider was due to kind of the entrepreneurial spirit of a entrepreneur in a smaller operation, the willingness to use multiple tools in the toolbox rather than just a single type of tool, and the willingness to, chase the American dream and, put in those long nights and long weeks. So I'm here for that. I love working with your team. I, will continue to do so at any opportunity, and whomever you want me to speak with, I will. I will say that introductions go a very long way, especially in this space. People have their guard up. They don't trust easily, and so when an introduction can be made where it's, saying, hey, you can trust this person, please talk to them, they're here to help, that is immensely helpful.
Thank you.
I got one question. This has got to be your largest undertaking as far as a project goes. So how do you
Correct.
put boots on the ground and make it happen as far as once you start building the towers and you want to go connect to the homes?
Yes. So great question. Let me zoom out here. One of the questions that I know was brought up at the last meeting was, a phased approach. And so there are multiple ways to view a phased approach. One of them actually would be to view installing homes ahead of the towers being live. This was something that we did in Golden Gate Estates when we swapped over from LTE to Tirana, the same system that we're installing for the grants. We actually installed all of the Tirana antennas at the customers' homes ahead of the Tirana system being deployed on the tower. The reason for that was we had roughly 100 customers we needed to cut over, and we would not accept downtime as an option. So it was a very simple process of doing a full-blown installation, and thankfully, because they already had existing service, it was, mount it and then swap the cable when the time came to be. That's a very manageable and scalable solution. So first part of the answer to your question would be we can be pre-installing homes ahead of the towers even being live. So that way, once the tower is live, the citizen immediately starts receiving service off of the gear that we left at their home. Part two is that we are already adding hires to the company in terms of installers. And one of the needs that we do have that I was hoping to put a little blurb out is we are looking to hire a local installer in Hendry County. We like young. I like to build a young team of people that are hungry like myself, and we found great success with that. So if anyone knows of someone fresh out of high school or fresh out of college, 30 or younger is perfect for us, because there is a bit of manual labor to the job component. You do have to sometimes crawl through an attic to run a cable or work out in the heat of the day. But two ways that we will be attacking the scaling problem. Third, there's kind of multiple. This third is due to the number of towers that we have, the signal is red hot at very easy installations, meaning that our installers can do a significantly greater number of installs in a day than if they had to do a bunch of those like utility pole installs or push pole installs. And then lastly is, while we will be phasing the tower, so to speak, and we will put a priority on Western Hendry County, given the fact that Connexon has already deployed in Eastern Hendry County, these towers will end up getting built on roughly the same timeline. And that's due to a concept called economies of scale. So when we're able to rent all of our heavy machinery in bulk for, call it a 6-month period, we receive a massive discount on the per day rental of that machinery. So each tower will take roughly 30 labor days to construct. And that's if we had a single team working on the tower. Our tower construction company is forecasting to bring anywhere from 1 to 3 teams out here, depending on how quickly we want the sites deployed. So we could be seeing a deployment schedule of anywhere from, call it 2 to 6 months for all of these sites to go live. Now, I'm not saying 2 to 6 months from today, but I'm just saying once construction begins, that's kind of what we are looking at. And once again, we can focus on the western portion of the county ahead of the eastern portion. There are certain parts of the eastern portion that we will need to do slightly ahead of time due to site readiness. As an example, this tower site right here, SLSSR, this is the Sheriff's Shooting Range. They have an existing structure there, but it's seen better days. It's not at the beginning of its life. It's not a spring chicken anymore. So we are replacing it with a fresher tower. And that tower site will be getting deployed ahead of most other sites purely due to the readiness of the site for the construction. Now, we actually, even though the tower will be going up, we won't be ready to provide service off of it right away, because what we are doing with the network is building what we call a ring. And we will be connecting all of these tower sites together in a redundant pattern. So every site is connected in at least 2 directions with at least 2 different types of radios and technologies, allowing us to have a high redundancy, high availability network.
So if one tower goes out, it's going to piggyback off the other one?
Exactly. And even more granular than that, if one link on the tower, let's say, gets struck by lightning, that entire tower doesn't go down. It still has 3 other links at minimum to go off of.
Best and worst case scenario as to going live. What do you think?
Oh man, you're really gonna make me do this in a public setting?
They're listening, just so you know.
I know. That's why you're really making me sweat
One
buckets.
thing he said he didn't, he wasn't. gonna
I get it.
go
I
on
get it. I
it.
just
Okay.
That's why I'm giving you an option of worst case scenario as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Worst,
hold you. I'm recording it. I'm gonna hold you to it.
worst case scenario, end of Q1 next year for full deployment. Worst case. God, I really don't want to say the best case. I'm giving you all a big range here because it all depends on, we have federal studies going on right now called NEPA studies. These are environmental reviews that we need to have conducted. And, you know, if they don't go well, they had significant delay. Yeah. So, you know, best case, if the permitting department loves our permits, if, you know,
Which permitting department? Hendry County?
yes.
That's done. Go ahead, next.
If all goes perfectly, I would love to see the network live by end of September. We will have all of our tower steel ready ahead of that point. We are already taking delivery of the vast majority of the equipment that is required to operate the network and to build the network. And I mean, we have a site at the EOC that in a perfect world could be getting deployed in the beginning of May.
I got one last question, Madam Chair. You mentioned earlier about the FAA. You already have an approval for 150 feet, but to go to 200 feet, you have to apply. Is there anything that we can do on our end, Tommy, to help expedite that? Because we know how it's the FAA, you're going to turn that around pretty easy.
The concern is the approach. You have to make sure it's not breaking the approach.
So what we can do though is we can gently poke the bear and ask them, hey, can you please put this towards the top of your list? I've been given anecdotal evidence from colleagues that have deployed towers in downtown environments that had similar scenarios, where when the local mayor, as an example, sent a request to their FAA official, it got turned around in 2 days.
Right.
So it's not to say that you poking the bear will get you the answer you want, but it at least will get you the answer in a expedited timeline relative to just going through the standard, you know, procedures.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave you alone.
Madam Chair, I have one question for, I believe it'd be Ms. Davis. Is there a way that we can have like for lack of a better word, real-time progress given to the board once work starts, that we can monitor and watch this thing go?
Sure, we're hoping at the next board meeting, you'll actually have the agreements to approve. So that'll set everything off. And then from there, we can get status project updates from Streamline, and we can share to let everyone know what's going on.
Perfect.
And what I would like to be doing as we start getting closer to a construction timeframe is actually creating a page on my website that, you know, we can be directing the citizens to be tracking. Something that we'll be doing as well is taking this coverage map that, you know, we've shown you here, expanding it to include the true max range of these devices and creating a database of all of the addresses in the county. That way, if a citizen from anywhere in the county asks, can we get service, we'll have a publicly searchable tool that they can use to say, yes, you can, or yes, you cannot, or no, you cannot, sorry. That way we can try to relieve that burden from you all. And I know that that has been something that gets asked quite frequently to the county, and it's something that is within our wheelhouse to do. It's just a secondary priority to me right now. The primary priority is getting my long bottleneck items past the long bottleneck point, meaning, you know, I need to get the NEPAs kicked off and conducted. I need to get the towers to a point where we can start fabricating the steel. Thankfully, we are using U.S. steel towers. The 2 tower companies that we're using are Sabre Towers and World Tower. World Tower is a smaller family-owned business out of, I believe it's Mississippi. Sabre is a publicly traded company. I would have preferred to have supported small, but Sabre beat them on price, and we have a financial responsibility to the taxpayers as well. So that's why it's a mixture of the two. But Sabre, thankfully, has very fast lead times. We're looking at 6 to 8 weeks to fabricate the steel, and the benefit to that is it takes roughly 14 to 28 days for the concrete to cure for the foundation anyways, and they can ship us the foundation materials within maybe 2 weeks of ordering. So even though the steel will take an extra 4 to 6 weeks to be fabricated, that's the time it takes for the concrete to cure. So there are things that we can be doing to kind of reduce the overall timeline. So my main concern to the worst case scenario versus the best case scenario for deployment is purely from a procedural standpoint, whether that be local government with permitting and approvals and legal kind of arrangements, and then the one that's completely outside of all of our control, the federal NEPA process.
Any other questions?
I have about 17, but I'll wait to talk to him about it.
Please have your meeting before the next meeting, okay?
All good questions, though.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
So at this time, we're gonna have staff report, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Chair. Matt Rolston, County Attorney for the record. I wanted to update the board regarding the PACE program. There was some reporting about it. I think that sort of confused the issue a little bit. But this started, well, PACE kind of operating independently on its own started, predicated on a bond validation hearing they had in Leon County. And what they did is, because there's no real opposition to bond validation hearings, and because they're sort of strictly statutory on who gets served, and it's a little unusual process. What they did is they created a really overbroad order in that bond validation hearing about what authorities they had under the statute and all these things, and the judge signed the order. And recently, through the task force, the Florida Association of County Attorneys task force on this, a lot of the counties got together and all the tax collectors got together and filed a motion for relief from that judgment in an attempt to get the judge to change his order or clarify that the other language in the order that this PACE was relying upon to operate in the counties, and also defend lawsuits. So they've sued several counties. Some counties have sued them, and every time that happens, they say, "Oh, this was decided in our bond validation hearing in Leon County." So we kind of took an all the above approach. So we filed a motion for release. In that case, there was a hearing in Tallahassee, which I attended, and a lot of county attorneys attended and participated in, and ultimately the judge denied that motion for relief. That wasn't really surprising because the judge had two options. He could say, "I was right when I did it," or "I was wrong when I did it." And he decided to say, "I was right." And either way, he was likely to be appealed, so it didn't really serve his interest to say that he was mistaken when he originally issued the order. And I think the court's position was all the other language is just kind of discussing a statute, and that's not really part of the order. It's what they call dicta in a legal sense. It's just information. It's not binding. And it's not binding on us, frankly, because we weren't a party to that case. So they have not filed a lawsuit against us. We've denied, our tax collector here and the county has both agreed, and the tax collector doesn't want to collect their purported assessments, and we don't want to collect them, and we're not going to unless a judge says we have to. This judge's order doesn't change that. They would have to sue us here and win in order for that to happen. We did appeal it. Well, the attorneys present appealed it, and Hendry County joined in that appeal to the Florida Supreme Court. So we'll see what that outcome is. Even if we were to lose that appeal, it still doesn't mean we're collecting them here, as we would kind of force their hand to do it. And they would rely upon that to try and to get a favorable judgment. In the meantime, we also engaged the legislature who passed, and I provided you a copy of the Senate Bill 770, which clarifies that they can't operate without county authorization. And even if they did have prior authorization, counties are authorized to deauthorize their ability to act in the county. So I'm hopeful that will strengthen our legal position. They're going to say that if the prior law was good, then they wouldn't have changed it. And we're going to say this just clarified what it already said, and it did reference home rule and did say that we had to pass an ordinance or resolution. What they did is they said, the language was local government. You know, language, we talked about language. Language says local government. Well, the creation of these agencies are local. They are the local government, basically, is what they're saying. We are the local government. We authorize ourselves to do it. We don't need you to do it. So this
And they
this
did that
clarified
after the fact. They did that after they went and nicely lobbied and got told no in a number of areas. Then they went and they created their own little boards or little fiefdoms, if you will, and then started implementation because they knew the market was ripe.
Yes.
And or they could sell a bag of snake oil and get paid off of it. So
That's right. And they try to use this bond validation here and you kind of create some sort of legal. And by the way, they sent us all letters that said, see, this court said blah, 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 and they put the stuff in the order that they crafted. And frankly, you know, judges don't, it was very purposeful, right? They did this and they created this overbroad order on purpose to do exactly what they've been trying to do. And I think they've been unsuccessful. And I think this really, is going to greatly affect them. And we're not hugely affected. I think we have 9 or so purported assessments, but you know, there's counties with a lot. And so,
I mean, if you look at the log of some, there are some counties, it's
oh yeah, there's a lot.
dumbfounding.
And there's a finance company that's relying upon the bond issuance, and they were a party to it. They intervened also. So, but I just want to update the board that the reporting kind of said, this judge says you have to do it, and he kind of did as far as that goes. But he failed to mention, he said, on this new statute kind of broadens, you know, it does, and it does actually give some additional scope of work type things that they could do under the program, but clarifies the authorization part of it. So I just wanted to give the board an update.
How many did you say that had tried to sneak through?
There's about 9, I want to say 8 or 9,
Oh, wow, that's doubled.
that in total. And may have been, I think there's 9 assessments. That I don't know if there's 9 properties. There may be like 3 assessments on one property or something like that. So it's not. And I know at least one of the property owners wasn't eligible in the program because of the statutory requirement. They were delinquent on their property tax at the time, and you can't be delinquent on your property taxes to be eligible for the program. So that would be an interesting case study.
It still blows my mind how they moved the first mortgage to, they regained first mortgage. That just blows my mind how that's even a thought that they can do that.
I just don't think they understand the underlying of it, though.
They being the person that's engaging it?
Right.
No,
Oh, yeah, no, they
100%,
don't.
yeah.
No, and this started, well, I first became aware of it in Collier County when there was an air conditioning company down there who was, you know, they had their iPad out and they're dealing with older folks and they're like, here, just sign here, you get a free air conditioning system, you know. They charge $20,000 for a new HVA system and you're gonna pay for 20 years and they're on a fixed income. It was really nice of them, but, I think that guy got charged eventually. I don't know if he got
I think
prosecuted
it's a
for it.
trap to foreclose on homes when they don't pay.
Well, that's the end run's kind of curious because it's non-ad valorem. They couldn't foreclose.
Oh, really?
I don't know what they would end up doing. I mean, I guess the bonds would be on the hook for it or something, but I don't really know. Well, I take that back. They could foreclose. I mean, it could go to tax deed sale. And then, you know, then whatever happens,
Get through there.
we end up holding the bag, or, you know, if someone doesn't buy the tax deed sale and they can't because they're upside down, there's a $40,000 improvement on a home that's worth, you know, 100.
But in the interim, an entity got paid. They got paid well for a short time, and they did that over in a multiplier effect, and that was their whole, in my opinion, that is their method of
Well,
operation.
but what's gonna happen is the people that paid them are now don't have the ability to collect the money, and they're on the same side presently. I don't think that's gonna continue. They're gonna go after each other, because,
Yeah, it's gonna get sideways.
yes, it is.
Yep. Well,
Thanks for the update.
Madam Chair, thanks for allowing us to engage in that and for everybody being in so lockstep with it and y'all doing the due diligence that you've done to provide us an education on it, because it had the ability to really upend some of our most vulnerable constituents, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Because it does sound good. I'm gonna give you new hurricane-resistant impact windows. I'm gonna give you a new roof that's efficient. I'm gonna give you new air conditioning. You know, we're gonna get the Sears 16, whatever latest model, and you know, all the new fun-dangled items, and you ain't gotta pay nothing. We're just gonna put this on your bill over X number of years, and we'll take care of it.
They don't see the underline when they don't pay. So
Yes,
that
ma'am.
Most people lose their homes like that, so thank you so much for the update. Next, we have Mr. Parker, and also you have a walk-on, am I correct? Is that it? Okay, thank you.
Now, Chair, before Shane starts though, it's just, that to me is one of those, I wanna go back, I don't think I can overemphasize this enough. If y'all remember, I was a cheerleader for this program. I wanted to see this implemented, right? As we dug into it, and the beauty of the board being, I don't wanna say with a negative connotation, skeptical of what was going on, but it was like, hey, Commissioner Turner, we're not saying a hard no, but we also wanna understand the exact finite details. And then within 30 days, you know, I was able to do my homework and was like, wow, I was dumbfounded at how, like you said, it superseded this mortgage. And you started to see quickly how, I just say all of that as a little infomercial for us of saying, it's nice how we're able to bounce ideas off one another, come here, not have a preconceived idea of, oh, okay, and we don't rubber stamp things. I think we hold each other accountable to things often, and that's how you get stuff done. So anyway, that's it. Thank y'all. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
For the record, Shane Parker, County Engineer and Public Works Director. The item I have before you is a purchase and sale agreement for the Port LaBelle utility system. If you recall, we hired Tetra Tech to do several supplemental task authorizations for doing improvements to expand capacity at the water treatment plant.
Madam Chair, I don't mean to cut Shane off, but this is $70,650 plus closing costs. That's the nuts and bolts.
Yes, sir.
And we
Yes, sir.
need it, correct?
We need it.
Tell
and-
us why this is a bad idea, or tell us what we're gonna do.
It's not a
guys.
bad idea. We already
We
acquired
already-
one
yeah,
lot that
we
we
need
took
it.
a while to get, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Iglesias, second by Commissioner Wells.
Madam Chair, I want one question throughout here, because I know it's gonna come back up. I just want to clarify. Could you kind of explain the two lots aren't contiguous with the
Right,
BOCC
there's-
properties and how that will work?
It's not contiguous, but we're adjacent to the road right of way, so the well would go on those properties, and then we would run the raw water line into the right of way at Cedarwood and up to the county property. So we'd have access. But the well would be on those lots.
Awesome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Davis.
Yes, Miss Amy Stafford is here. She's gonna do a brief presentation. You should have a PowerPoint handout in front of you.
Does anyone see why we don't wanna do this? Has everybody read it?
She waited a long time. She's prepped for this for like 3 weeks.
I know.
Man, Miss
She's
Stafford
ready.
don't play, man. She just gets it done.
She can give you
Need the
a
money?
Reader's Digest version if you would like.
We're getting the money, I just want to use it.
We need you to approve the plan, and then once you approve the plan, it'll come back in the form of an agreement. But the plan has to be approved first so we can get started.
Well, Amy likes public speaking, so I want to give her the opportunity. Just at least a brief, you could just give us the Cliff Notes version,
Cliff
and then we'll
Notes.
approve it.
Okay, so we're gonna take this money and we'd like to, Chief Amy Stafford for the record, use it in 3 different ways. We're gonna increase the Narcan leave behind. We're actually gonna start a program. We're gonna model it off of one they're doing in Clay County right now. If we go to a call for an overdose and the patient wakes up and they can refuse meeting all those parameters, they don't wanna go to the hospital, we would actually leave some there. We'd leave Narcan there at the house with them, with somebody that's responsible, so that if this was to happen again, they could go ahead and get it on board when we're on the way. Okay, when we have overdoses, that's the big thing. They go into respiratory arrest, meaning they stop breathing. The quicker you get the Narcan on board, the quicker that breathing comes back. Doesn't mean they're gonna totally be okay, but we can at least start that process. Larger major cities, they're leaving this on picnic tables in parks, and they're just leaving it everywhere. So this would be a little bit controlled. We would have follow-up with these people, putting them into a program that we're currently doing, where we go into the homes after calls, our community paramedicine program. So that'll be one aspect of it. The other one that I think is really going to benefit us in the long run is the jail program. We're going to be modeling that after a program that's going through the state called CORE. It's Coordinated Opioid Response. We would like to do this in conjunction with the jail. If they have somebody that comes in that is withdrawing, that has, fentanyl issues that they're taking outside, we will go in, we will provide the care there instead of transporting this person every single time. We'll keep in touch with the medical staff at the jail and make sure that we're doing the follow-up, making sure they're getting the medication that they need. We can go in and treat them when they're suffering from those withdrawal symptoms instead of just going and picking them up and taking them to the hospital. The big reason for this is twofold. One, when we transport from the jail, we don't bill, because why would we rob Peter to pay Paul? And the other thing is, when we do transport somebody from there, the sheriff's office has to provide a CO. They have to have somebody that's there with us. They have to have somebody that goes to the hospital. So if we can delay that, go ahead and give the bag of fluids, give the medications that they need, leave them there. If we can't fix it, then we would transport. But if we could at least tend to them and treat them while on scene, instead of doing that transport every time, we're kind of saving twofold there. So that's the gist of it.
All right.
Chief Stafford, Madam Chair, Chief Stafford, that is a well-thought-out program. I can't wait to see that in operation. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the
Second.
program.
Motion by Commissioner House, second by Commissioner Iglesias. I just think it need to be more education on it, because there was an incident in our community, and they just felt like this what took that person out. And after I did my own research and reached out, it wasn't the case. But I just think we don't have enough knowledge on it, so I just think it need to be a time somewhere that there's a little bit more education on it.
And that would be another piece to it, educating, putting it in the schools, educating every time we do a first aid class or CPR class, making sure that we're putting and talking about Narcan and discussing it. We could get to the point, we get Narcan from the state for free in a program called Heroes. I actually got my delivery today. We could put it out with every AED that's out in the community. We can do that once we get that education on board and we have something that says, okay, this is a sustainable program and we can continue it. I don't want to put it out there and then it not be sustainable. Like, oh, there was Narcan here one time, but not, in the future. So we can make it as big as we want to make it, as big as the community needs to make it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ms. Stafford, how many overdose deaths and/or responses do we average?
We average about 5 to 6 a month.
Really?
Overdoses, responses, not deaths. We've had at least 3 overdose deaths that I know of that I can, off the top of my head, this year alone.
And how many of those are recidivist? It happens at the same place again and again.
About this, it's not typically where you would think it would be. So it's not always the same house that we go to or things like that. We had one just the other day where they pulled up to our station. The person was in the vehicle, not breathing. Crew runs out there, gives a Narcan. So it's not always
Were they a
the same
regional
there.
resident?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not always the same places or even the places that you would think that it is.
I'm going to withhold a lot of my comments on this publicly because I don't think they're popular or they're very coarse. But I'm going to support this. But this gets so dangerously close in my mind to us endorsing a process where I don't know how you change it. Like when does it become we're encouraging bad behavior and when is it we're saving an innocent life?
And it's like putting somebody on birth control.
It is very much, Ms. Bird. It is, and I'm of the generation where it was a giant controversy to put condoms in the classroom, right? And I remember having great debates with some of my teachers and having great debates with grandma and all of those conversations. And, I can remember the representative, she'll remain nameless. It's not anybody that's in office right now, but when she was trying to convince me about the Clean Needles program and how we needed to embrace that. And I said, you're absolutely smoking crack, no pun intended. I said, I can't endorse that. And I look at what other areas are doing, but it's just, it makes me uncomfortable. That's all I'm going to say. I know that we have to take care of our fellow man and woman, but boy, sometimes, so yeah, and I don't know if y'all want to discuss it. It's $277K that's going to be coming to us. And the saving thing for me was that I saw that you are going to work with us, being our staff, to have another plan in play of what we're going to do with those dollars and cents as we're moving forward.
I personally would rather that we spend a lot of that money on the training and the education.
ma'am.
But the opportunities have to come up.
Yep.
So if we can look at the places that we're spending money on this already and doing that, I agree with you 100%. I don't want to look like we're promoting it because that's not what we're doing. So I think the education piece on, yes, we're going to leave Narcan behind when we go to a house and we have to administer it, but we're also going to do the follow-up. We're going to connect them with the services. We're going to look at the social network and say, hey, we're going to fill these gaps. We're going to look at the voids. Do you want help? Where do we get you help? How do we get you connected to that help? And that's really the bigger piece. The overarching thing needs to be, we're going to try to help them, but in the short term, how do we do that? We save their life in the short term until we can get them connected with those services.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair? Commissioner Turner, I'll echo your, the needle program and those type of things, because there is a level of enabling in there. The game changer for me was fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl changes everything.
Yes, sir.
Because it's not always self-induced, it's accidentally induced, and this is the answer to that. I don't like going down that road as well, but that changed it for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I are we able to track that as well? Fentanyl specific? We are? Yeah. So I know that, we had a rash of deaths, and I know that sounds crazy, but we did at the beginning of the year there. And so, and when you talk to our colleagues on the coast, it's mind-boggling, what they're dealing with. So
This would be one of the presentations I like to see where we can see stats, if we've seen an increase in deaths or usage or whatnot, but that would be a great deal.
and/or
And
our
calls.
staff being exposed and, this being a potential lifesaver,
I have the 2022 stats, I believe, and I can share those with you guys.
Well, I want to see it on a slideshow with my colleagues here. We're starting to implement that, and we're actually seeing some
Data sets
good
associated with everything.
conversation between the boards, so that's good.
Ms. Chief, Ms. Stafford, are all of our deputies, are they already equipped? Do you know? They are.
The sheriff's office has their own they get their own allocation through the HEROES program.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're all trained, and I
And
believe
then all
they
of your
carry a
EMS,
Walker unit.
all your EMS staff, and then, I'm not trying to play the left-right game, but you have in there, right out the gate, you said we've had it in LHS for a year, but is it not on every campus countywide?
Currently, it is not. No.
And could we make that a priority of sorts, or?
That is my
Okay.
priority, yes. I've had communications with Mr. Swindle. We've talked with the different people. So we're starting it at the high school and then kind of going to the middle school, and then we'll go from there. I know that the school board just received a large donation of Narcan from the Hanley Foundation, and they put it out. So I know, just because I have a personal friend that works there, I know for a fact that LaBelle High School will have it in every classroom.
Cool.
So, and I'm sure it would follow suit over here.
Have they had a situation where they had to use it?
They've administered it one time.
Wow. Unbelievable. What a world we're in. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Stafford.
With that being said, it would have been on this side too, so,
Yes,
some
ma'am.
circumstances that went on, so thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Any other questions? Did we motion, did we pass that? Did we do a motion?
I don't think a vote was taken.
Okay, I need someone to motion.
We did motion in
I think
second.
we
There
did.
was a motion and a second. There was no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. This is a public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak? I have a Miss Sherrill.
Mr.
No,
Levon Sherrill.
Sure.
I did that.
Please state your name.
Good evening, how y'all doing?
Just
My name's
fine.
Levon Sherrill. I've been a resident of Henry County for 73 years. And I live in a little area used to be called Hooker's Point. When I was raised out there, it was, everything around me was cow pasture. And it was, and later it's called South Calista now, I think. But anyway,
No, it's still Hooker's Point, Mr. Sheriff.
yeah, well, it's Hooker's Point to me, because I'm the one that elected to live all of my life out there, not move off somewhere else, and I'm still there, but I got a little bit of an issue here about, I don't know if the codes are changing to the point to where I think I've got it resolved about my horse, but I've got a horse out there that I was told needs to please remove the horse and miscellaneous debris from the vacant lot. There was very little debris on it, but the horse has been in the family for like 27 years. He's 30-plus years old now. He gets fed twice a day, he gets wormed, and yeah, he looks a little rough around the edges, but his age shows it, kind of like I do. And but anyway, I'm told this needs to be done in 30 days. Well, I seem to have this issue resolved, but the only other issue I had was the fact that I was told when the horse, we kind of retired him and we letting him live his life out, finish his life out there. But I was told when he's gone that no more animals. Is this what the county's going to in that area now? No more animals, or?
I know we
let
did.
staff answer.
I need to understand a little bit about this because this very piece of property, the people joining it on the east has goats and sheep on that property. My other property across the street, Granton Road, joins another piece of property on the west side of it that has sheep and goats there also. And I seem to be the only one that got a violation about the animal.
I think you and Stevie Cotton are only two that I know of.
So,
I know Mr. Cotton was pretty upset about his chickens and stuff being
it's,
addressed as well.
What's the address, Mr. Sherrill?
my address is 911 Grattan Road.
That's not where the horse is.
The horse is right
the
across
street.
from my house at an angle.
Yeah.
I also own the little house on the corner on the south side of that property that the horse is on.
So what's the parcel on Grattan Road that the horse is on?
Commissioners,
the partial number.
if I may,
Yes.
I wasn't
The
aware.
little house is on 1434, so it's on the north side, borders out on the north.
We're gonna open the floor to Ms.
I wasn't aware of this specific, I wasn't aware that you've got a code enforcement. Was it from our code enforcement, Tommy? I'm very familiar with Mr. Sherrill's property. I wasn't aware that he got a notice. It's from our office. I will work with staff first thing tomorrow morning, find out what's going on. There's multiple properties on that road that for the last 25 years have had horses and
I'm 47.
sheep
and they're-
and chickens.
I remember I used to ride my bike to Danny's house and stand at the bus stop right there, and that horse is.
I think they steal some down the road from
Yeah.
these horses
And-
on
Absolutely. and
Matt
so-
Wiggins and,
with them.
Well, you know, you got Mr. Robinson and Matt have all their stuff at the end there, and so.
we've all had horses or animals of some kind all our life out there, but.
So I'll look
If
into
you
it
give
and
us
get
an
back with Mr.
opportunity to
Sherrill
look into
next
it,
week.
give us an opportunity to look into it for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'll get back with you.
Yeah, I'll just.
I agree.
I seem to have the horse situation taken care of, but the fact that I was told over the phone, no more animals once a horse is gone, I did have some concerns about that. I don't,
We'll look into it.
It must be a warning because it's not on the E-Track it yet.
Okay.
The first one is a warning, 30 days, and then if he don't call in or address it, then it goes that step. But you did fine, so she's gonna look into it. And
Thank you, Mr. Sherrill. Appreciate you coming here tonight.
thank you so much.
And I apologize for not hollering at you earlier today.
Pardon me?
I said I apologize for not calling you back earlier today.
all right.
But thank you for being here.
You busy too, like.
Appreciate you, old boy. Ms. Bird, but this, you know, I'm not gonna dwell on it too much, but this is that situation where, I don't think it's a gray area, really. You know, I don't think this is one of those ones, well, Commissioner Turner, you can't have it both ways. You can't have, oh, we're gonna be the anti-chicken running down the street commissioner or the anti-goat in the yard commissioner, and then we're gonna ask for you to give a Levon Sherrill a pass. I think that this is a prime example of, if you look at the uses that have been there, and you look at like that particular, and I'm gonna call it a pasture. It's not even an acre, right? But that horse, like I said, there's been 2 or 3 horses in my lifetime that have been in that pasture. They've all been taken care of well. But I don't understand how that can get a letter, but yet when you turn off of Hookers Point Road, and I would encourage y'all to do it tonight. Go down and turn on Hookers Point, and the old new and used store that used to be there that's dilapidated now, just that side of Clouston Towing, just this side of the single-family home, just across the street from Mr. Jones. Exactly, you know, all that, that looks the way it looks, and you know, I don't see it being addressed. And I can go down and down, but I'm not gonna get into it. but then we get after something like that, and it's just odd. It's just odd to me. So
'Cause if you're gonna address them, you address the whole thing.
I
You
agree,
don't-
and
you
be
don't- you
consistent
don't-
with it.
Yeah, you don't pick and choose. I do know if that's been there a long time, like Jennifer said, we'll look into it and see, what could be done to help, because, just when I got in the seat, there's people that did stuff for 30 years and they wanted me to change it. And I feel like if the county didn't change it before I got here, I didn't touch it. And I'm sorry whether it's right or wrong, if they should have corrected things a long time ago. So my daddy told me, don't be the bad person.
Ms. Byrd?
And you have to work around and find out how you can correct things. Don't allow it to continue, but you can correct them, so
Ms.
I'm
Byrd?
pretty sure
I'm gonna
we'll
disagree
find a
with
way.
you on that one. I think if there are things that are wrong, just because it was like that forever doesn't mean it's right. We need to, as commissioners,
I
at least
don't
for
agree
me,
with it.
myself.
Certain things, I think that, I'm gonna put it case by case. So, because certain things, I'm gonna say you had a business in your home for 40 years and nobody touched it, and all of a sudden, him come Emma Bird. And it's been there for 40 years, and you didn't correct it, and they established a business there, and it shouldn't have been there. I would establish it where they correct some things on the business, but I wouldn't do away with it. So,
Madam Chair.
that's why it's 5 of us up here.
Yeah, there
First meeting I ever sat in was in this room, and a man drove all the way from Wheeler Estates. I'll never forget it, I was so embarrassed. Wheeler Estates, middle of nowhere, had chickens,
Yep, I remember that.
and he was told he was gonna be fined and go to court if he didn't get rid of the chickens. At some point, this property belongs to these people. If that horse has been there 30 years, why are we stopping and saying one thing about a horse that's been there 30 years? Like Commissioner Turner said, there's so much more blatant, just blatant. And the other day, I think I'm leading the race with the blatant stuff in my district. That's fine. But again, it's a horse in this man's field. And the first meeting was this man come all the way from Fort Myers because he couldn't have a chicken. I think we gotta really look at some things.
Well, and that's the thing, I think code enforcement's doing their job based on the ordinance, so we have to look at, as commissioners and staff, we need to look at the ordinances and change those, because if staff is doing what they're doing, I mean, we shouldn't be critiquing them.
I wouldn't stop them from what they're doing. It's just bringing things to our light to correct some things. I wouldn't, he did his job, and that's fine. So now we're gonna look at it and see what we could do to help. But it's not a problem with the job piece.
There-
It's things that we just have to go in and critique,
And Chair of the Board, there's situations, and it's come up before, where, these properties and uses existed before the code existed, before the land use existed. But our code enforcement officers who've been on the job for a year or two, they don't know that. They go, well, the code says this,
Doing their job.
and this is what it is. So there is such thing as legal nonconforming, where it's grandfathered in. Use was prior to the change of the law, and then it's legal. But there's an education process that has to take place there, so there's gonna be circumstances that come up like that. So.
Yeah, I think they should continue to do their job, bring the attention to the board, and deal with it when it comes to the board. So I wouldn't stop them from doing their job. He had a responsibility to contact us in 30 days. He did that. So now we take the next step to see what we could do to help, so.
I find it embarrassing he had to do that.
No, I find it embarrassing as well, and I probably could have headed it off at the pass, Commissioner Wills, had I given Mr. Sherrill a call. But I'll just tell you, I've been a little bit frustrated as of late with the volume of people that have come to my office, because Commissioner Turner is turning them into code enforcement. And the fact is, and I hate to say this and be so negative in my connotation of the statement, but I've kind of given up as it relates to that subject matter. I'm not going to sit here and be the commissioner that complains and sounds as if he's coming across negative towards staff, or is angry or upset or just mad all the time, whenever the definition of insanity, And so I'm not going to do that. So I stay out of that wheelhouse. I will tell you, to add a little levity to the situation, Ms. Byrd, you know why Ms. Davis knows about that horse, don't you? Do you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because when she used to go down there and holler at Cliff, that's how she went to his house. And he was right there on the right, the same horse, old long-headed mule-looking thing. And she used to roll down that street, and she said, "Boy, I got to feed this horse something." And so,
Across the street right down the road and across the street from Mr. Sherrill was where my husband's family lived. They
Don't
had
lie, Carson.
Oh, that's
3.5 acres, and they had a handful of horses.
That's
I
old
know
school
you
right
And
there.
2 steers every year.
And 2 steers every year,
Yep.
and their neighbor
Fair.
did as well. So that whole road,
Was full of.
I'm not saying not
No, no.
every parcel
But a
has
majority.
livestock, but the majority of years ago at least, of the properties down that road had livestock.
There's
And they
4
were
right now.
all well taken care of. So I don't know the zoning off the top of my head of that road, but that's why
I think it's RG3.
it's I say that, common sense, whatever, we're gonna look at and see what's going on, and we'll figure it out and do whatever we have to do, and this is just one of those cases. Staff, if the zoning isn't there, they were doing their job.
That's exactly right.
And so, we're not.
But that's how it's gonna be brought things to our light, because they
Right.
are doing their job.
Right,
Like I tell people, when I see the tag in their yard, I say, that means you have 30 days. Make sure you call in, leave them a voicemail, because
Right.
they'll work with you.
right.
So.
And what was it Mr. Sherrill said, that if once the horse is gone, he couldn't put another horse there? We
Yeah.
need to fix that.
Well, my point is, it's not staff. We're saying they're doing their job, well, obviously, we need to do ours.
Yeah.
And get this stuff corrected, so they don't have to worry about that.
Need to do a county initiated
Exactly.
something, but we'll look at that and bring that back if
Yeah.
that's what we need
And it's
to
gonna
do.
be something else, because it's always something broke, but their job is to bring it to our attention.
Right.
So thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public wishes to speak? This is a public hearing. Any old business? Not old people, Carson, just old business. Okay, we're gonna go staff by staff. Commissioner,
District by district.
I'm sorry, district by district.
So I wanted
Okay,
to thank
watch your mouth.
I wanted to thank Road and Bridge for doing the inventory, the light inspection the other day. I know that we've got, 81 lights that are out countywide. I know FPL told you guys, 45 days? Yeah, you can probably guess about 120 days on that, but keep pushing. Jennifer, any update on the generator logs that you were?
Yes, I do. I did get all the generator logs. They were from several years ago. Bob and I have a meeting on Wednesday or Thursday, or tomorrow, to go over the recommendation. And then I think we already have meetings on the books with the commissioners, or Tracy's working on that, pending our meeting tomorrow. And we're gonna go over it with each one of you before we get to a meeting, make sure everybody's comfortable, for a recommendation for new generators, and to show you all the properties, and what's covered, what's not covered, and what our recommendation is to purchase the proposed new generators.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, just keep Senator Pasadoma in our prayers. She lost her husband last week. She's been a tremendous asset to our county. It's a heavy loss for her and her family, and just want to keep her in our prayers.
Didn't know that.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 things. Towards the end of the month, we're trying to set up a community meeting at LaBelle Acres, Case Evans Road, for the lighting MSBU. And so we're working on that. And the question of Shane that popped up was, is FPNL ready with their analysis for that meeting?
I owe them I got to call and ask them some questions. They gave me some lighting coverage of the roads, and I got to tell them, yes, that's what I want, and then see if they can give me a price for that.
Okay, so we're okay in going ahead and planning that meeting?
I
towards
think
the end of
so.
the month? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, wanted to bring this up, and it's my opportunity to have a conversation with Commissioner Wills, but the East Seminole drainage ditch, took a call the other night about the concern rainy season's on the way, same issues and everything, and with this ditch, we can't find a reason that the water won't move from one side to the other identically. We've had several conversations about maybe this ditch is just somewhere there's some water trying to go uphill, lack of a better way to say it. But I guess my question with Shane and Commissioner Wills is, what's the next step? What's the next step we could maybe fix this ditch? Because it does back up on quite a few constituents to the east. And it's this one ditch.
Well, the only way to fix that is to fill it and recut it. It's too deep. It's, the water sets there, it sets from the edge of Bridge Street all the way back to the end of it on the east end, and that fills into that area, which is really low back in there, where there's no homes yet, and there's homes coming now. I've talked to him several times about it. He didn't like the idea that I told him the ditch was too deep. He said, how's it too deep? Well, you see the water sitting there? Yes, sir. Do you see the water sitting down there? No. The ditch is too deep.
I think you might have come to that realization.
Well, that's a good thing. DOT cleaned the west end of that, Commissioner. I had them clean that last year. We actually took a back truck down, we went underneath the Dodge, cleaned all that out, and the DOT came in and actually cleaned that going east or going west. So, and they've actually come in this year and cleaned a portion of it, the other end of it, which wasn't cleaned, which goes through the, I'll think of that gentleman's name in a minute, the Grove on the west side that we've been having issues with right-of-ways on, but I can't think of his name right now. And they actually carried that. That is Wheeler, yes. And they carried it all the way to the river. So the area that you're talking about, we're gonna have to change the elevation. The pipes are higher than the ditch. The ditch is too low, so.
Yep. So what does, Shane, what would it take to pull that off?
That's county property.
I have little knowledge of the ditch. I know roughly where it is. I had to figure, I have never heard that term, so I had to listen to where you were talking about. I assume you're talking about the one by the bank?
No, sir.
Or the one that
we're
goes to
talking about is right by the
Wheeler
drive-through.
Farms?
Drive-through.
By the drive-through?
Yes, sir.
I'd have to look at the ditch, but I'm not gonna disagree with you. There's water and it's dry and it's lower than the pipes. You need to fill it in. But
Seacoast.
some of those DOT has a drainage easement and it would be them to clean,
Yeah,
But-
they clean the west end of it for us.
right?
The east end of it, they won't touch. In fact, it took forever to get a light pole. The light pole lay in the ditch since the storm. So finally, our guys took it out, but,
Gotcha.
we don't have the means to do that. That's something with the joint effort we're working together, that's something we could pay to have done. A dump truck and load of dirt
Right.
come in and grade all and,
I mean, I'll be
Fix it.
glad to meet with you and
Yeah.
you can show me the area and we can look at it and come up with a solution.
be great.
All right.
I know Commissioner Wills has done everything he can to make sure there's no obstruction. I don't believe that, so. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Wills.
Shane, I got a question and I hate to ask it. I really, really do.
But he gonna ask it anyhow.
Well, I made a mistake and went to a ball game the other night, and I think I got eat up by people as bad as I did mosquitoes. Have we got any idea what they're doing as far as spraying?
That's a
We're
Tommy
treat-
question.
The park's getting treated. We're not doing it all over the neighborhoods, but the parks do get treated.
How
On a
how often are
regular
we doing
basis.
that? I mean, we got them,
Last Thursday, we do it weekly.
I was out the Monday ahead of that, so it makes sense.
It's weekly and they do a barrier spray too at the parks on the vegetation.
Yeah,
But the problem is the grove next door,
I
the
know.
old grove, those ditches, they just comes right over.
yeah. I kind of figured that. So, with all, come on up, Tommy, we have you talk for us tonight. When we're done with you, we'll get Jimmy. What is the schedule on right now as far as spraying? Where are we at on that? I know they set out traps or something we talked about. Where are we at on that?
The truck spraying for the residential neighborhoods?
Yes, or just in general, when will
We're
they be
not-
starting?
They'll probably be starting here in about another month.
Okay,
Yep. Counts are building up. They're like in the low 200s, but we've been watching them. But probably in about a month, we'll be starting. We've already had conversations with Clark about the chemicals we want to use and everything. And there'll be email blast and stuff goes out.
okay, good deal. I appreciate it. I told you I hated to ask that question, but I had to do it. I'm not even gonna ask you about Wheeler. You gave me a great update on that the other day, so I appreciate that. We are looking, I wanna get with staff as far as, Ryan, Shane. We haven't they've requested a meeting from Wheeler Estates. We haven't done that in probably 2 years. I'm having a mini meeting with them the 16th, actually next week. So I'll get a little bit of knowledge going forward on that, but they're requesting that we come together and have a discussion. And then the last question I have is, you and I talked about doing some maintenance on the road, Phillips Road. They would like to meet again. Some of them is wanting to see what they can do as far as ponying up and maybe getting the road paved. So if we could look at that in the coming, but maybe before the next meeting, if we could get an idea, That way I can give them a good idea when we can look at meeting. If you'll check your schedules, please, and to see when we can set those two up. I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner?
Madam Chair, I saw that we have the details from Central Florida Behavioral Health Network that have been emailed to us. So I'm looking forward to delving into that a little bit deeper. And then, Commissioner Iglesias, you said 81 lights out are out countywide.
Countywide.
Do we know if the 81, if that had that breakdown, are they all FPL responsibility or some FPL, some Glades Electric? And are any of them just us?
Summer Glades.
Or,
The majority are FP&L.
Okay.
The others are Glades.
Is it difficult, Tommy, for you to send an email maybe with addresses or a map showing or something like that?
No, for the board?
Could
Oh, that's
you?
easy. I have it. Yeah.
Awesome. That would be great. I would love to
sides?
see that,
Okay.
and then I'll try to help
Yep.
with that process
do
as
that.
well. Okay.
I apologize, you did both sides of the county?
Yes, ma'am. The entire county.
So you already contacted the city?
No, ma'am. We only did unincorporated parts of Hendry County.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep, that's on Shane.
That's all I
I
have.
apologize, okay.
No, I'm good, Ms. Bird.
Thank you. I was concerned about the lights on Georgia Avenue, that's why I asked that question. Okay. Okay. Also, I'm concerned about the road on Georgia, Shane, okay? It's really bad when you cut into it,
Oh,
unless y'all gonna buy me some tires.
Ms. Bird,
Huh.
that is one thing. Thank you. Y'all both spurred me on that, and I didn't make a note. Shane, I think maybe the last board meeting in Clueston, I brought it up, but a number of the roads, like if you just take Duck Curve or go down like you're heading to Margarita Curve and you've turned off of that little weird triangle there, our ability to get those painted and reflected. I would love for us to look at a large contract on that countywide. I think we'd get more bang for our buck, so to speak.
I went back after that meeting and looked at how much money we had allotted for striping, pavement markings, and we spent everything we had allotted in our budget.
Okay.
But I did not forget your conversation, because I had them go ahead and get the quantities. They're working on that.
Okay.
To do rumble strips, I actually told them, when you spoke about it, you spoke about near Davidson. So I
Yeah.
said, go from Matthews Loop all the way to US 27 and get the quantities to restripe that repaint it and put new RPMs and rumble strips just before the intersection with 27. So that'll be coming back before you.
And Shane, also, man, the next time they do Art Lawrence, I don't know how we lose pavement width every time. That road gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So,
Art Lawrence, oh my Lord.
And it getting more narrower?
I'm telling you, when I was in middle school was the last time that thing was redone. So I had aspirations of being a commissioner. And I made notes on my mongoose
Well, I don't
that
think I paid Art
that I went to
Lawrence
West
since I've
Palm
been
and
here.
bought because Ben Franklin did me wrong on my Huffy. So it probably got stolen at a Little
I
League
can't
game.
answer that one, because that wasn't paved during my time.
All
Well,
right.
Hooper's Point was, and it's falling apart.
Yeah, it is. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we took care of the roads and the sign. I'd like to say thanks for the sidewalks. Mr. Harrison told me to find out how many more you're gonna give me.
None.
Just FYI, so I need to get with you. And Mr. Harrison told me get all I can get while I can get it, so.
You heeded his
so,
warning.
I know, right? So thank you so much. Very proud of the sign. I know they're gonna be educated before they're able to install anything. One of the different ones is asking about that. Really appreciate it. I'm not sure where they at everywhere. I know they lit up the signs, but I know they are not able to put anything on until they get a little training. So, but thank you for that. The other thing is, just to clarify some things went across Facebook. There is a community meeting coming with Henry County Sheriff's Department, but it's for leaders only. I have given the letters to the majority of the leaders, so it's leaders only. And immediately after that, we'll set another date for the community. So with that being said, thank you. Anything else?